Hey, good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Wooster City Council this Monday, March 5th, 2018. It is after 7:30 p.m. The next meeting will be Monday, March 19th, 2018. If you would be so kind, Mr. Paulo, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Ansel?
Here.
Mr. Bostancic?
Here.
Mr. Cavan?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Silvestri?
Here.
Ms. Warden? Here.
And we have a full complement, hence a quorum. The agenda will remain as presented. And at this time, I would ask you to stand and join the members of City Council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes from February 20th, 2018 council meeting.
So moved, Mr. President.
Moved approved by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The minutes from February 20th council meeting will be approved. Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bytendike and council members. Fun night to be here with you. I'll explain in just a moment through my report. We also have a guest joining us, Melissa from the Community Action is here to give a report to council. So I'll let you go ahead and talk first, if you will, and then I'll follow up at the end, all right? Melissa Pierce from Community Action. She's the director, executive director of the Community Action Group here in Worcester, and a great partner for our city. So thank you for coming, Melissa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak briefly. On behalf of the board and staff of Community Action Wing Medina, I'm here to thank the mayor, city staff, and city council of Worcester for partnering with Community Action and leveraging resources to provide enhanced transportation options for our community. In a couple of years, we've managed to grow workplace access and improve the quality of life for resource-challenged individuals by providing access to medical appointments, food, and even recreational opportunities. The program design has allowed our agency to leverage the county's CDBG transportation investment, while also further vetting vehicle safety and driver background checks to improve customer experiences. When our low-income neighbors flourish, the entire community benefits. Community Action's mission focuses on self-sufficiency, which improved even more in 2018, with free access for older adults, our veterans, and people with disability to support their mobility and independence. For Head Start parents and many of our Getting Ahead program participants, the new transportation model supports workplace access through your expansion of the 3-mile radius around the city limits, opening possibilities for people to be able to apply for better paying jobs. In the last 2 months, there have been over 1,000 workplace passes purchased, and that was under 700 this time last year. Last year, the Transit's monthly average for rides was 450. In the first 2 weeks of the new program, there were 700 rides. We appreciate the trust and confidence you place in Community Action, and we're grateful for your willingness to ask the tough questions when we propose something, and then to work with us in determining practical solutions. We were meeting with the Medina County Economic Development Corporation a couple weeks ago to describe and brag about Wayne County's transportation success. They said that what we've been able to accomplish in such a short time has been very impressive. On a personal note, in my career I've had the pleasure of working in many fine communities, yet none has offered the combination of this administration's willingness to support solid collaboration, strategic resource leveraging, and forward momentum. You are to be commended. Thanks again, and we know that we appreciate your partnership and look forward to more wins ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, and what kind words, and ditto what she said as far as a great working partner, because we've had such success with community action and their leadership. When we, a few years ago, we didn't have a taxi system that we could be very proud of. Today we do. We have one that is functional, it is respectable, and it works. And then to add on to that, the transit system, the old bus system, which had worked for a little while but then had fallen into sort of a disarray, is now back and serving our city, and we thank the Community Action for all their guidance and help in achieving that. So thank you, Melissa. On to other things, I just want you to know that work started on the Northeast Quad today. So if you haven't been down past there, they have started. Simonson Construction out of Ashland is our contractor and is making things happen down there. We held a downtown parking meeting here in this room on February 23rd. We had about 30 plus people from the downtown area. Main Street was here and helped us organize it, and then we contacted a lot of the downtown businesses to invite any who would be interested. We are looking at redoing our parking lots and the way we lease parking in them, because we find there's a lot of dead open space in there for people with lease. So Joel and Jonathan and Andrew and Tim Monet have been working on this for probably close to a year now, trying to see how can we tweak our parking to get more out of it. And so I think we've got a decent system. We will be explaining it in further detail to you probably. Well, we hope to have it ready to go into effect on April 1st. It is our drive right now. So we'll be talking more about that. Planning and Zoning Code had a steering committee. We met today prior to tonight's council meeting. They've been in place since last June and have been giving good guidance on the document that Mr. Sanders went over tonight with the group. We did receive a very nice grant in the capital budget project at the state of Ohio. Scott Wiggum and Frank LaRose both helped us by putting in for a grant. Actually, Joel and Jonathan were the main drivers to get the grant application applied for, and then Roger Kobolarsik and Andrew Dutton both played a part in that also. But we have received or written into the capital budget for this year $300,000 to be put towards the park to be built out on the Seaman property that he is donating to the city or giving to the city. So we're very pleased on that. We have won two other very substantial recognitions for our city. The first one, and I handed both of these out to you, the first one's for concerning Wooster Community Hospital. We just found out today that we have been named a top 100 hospital again here in our little old city. There are close to about 5,000 hospitals in the United States. So to be considered in the top 100 of those is quite an honor. And if you look closer at it, we're what's considered a medium community hospital. There are only 20 of those recognized in all of the United States as being worthy of being a top 100 hospital. So this is an award that we won in 2008, 2009, 2010, and now in 2018. But it's probably one of the highest awards, in my opinion, awarded to a healthcare facility, and it's because it's all based on metrics. There's no buying ad space or doing anything to recognize it. It is really based on what has been available in the public domain. So very nice award for our hospital. The other just came in really late this afternoon. Site Selection Magazine has said that Wooster is number 3 in the 2017 Micropolitans. Now, that's the second one of these kind of awards. Just about 2 meetings ago, we received that award from Polycom. Two totally different companies and two different ways to look at the metrics as far as being worthy of recognition. And so this is another high honor for our community. We've won the site selection a number of years now. We were number one, I think, last year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So we are number 3 in their recognition for our city. So another really high recognition. If you think about all of the awards that have happened to our city within the last 6 months, we are pretty well recognized, as Mr. Silvestri said earlier in the committee meeting, that we do have a lot of people thinking that we're doing things right here, and we're sure pleased about that. We think we are too. So that's it for my report tonight. Thank you, and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have no petitions and no one signed up to speak, so moving right along, I'll recognize Mr. Sanders, who had a Laws and Ordinance Committee meeting this evening. Would you like to report on that, Mr. Sanders?
Absolutely, Mr. President. The Laws and Ordinance Committee met this evening to discuss a couple different topics. The first was a update from our Planning and Zoning Code Department related to the changes and modifications that have been ongoing for the better part of, since about June of last year. We're getting very close to being to the end of making the modifications, and at this point Mr. Dutton and the consultant, they just kind of gave us a general review of what we've gone through, what to expect here with this last little piece. Specifically related to open space standards, landscaping and buffering, parking mobility, signage, which is really where we've seen the largest amount of changes due to some federal, not so much federal law, but some federal some lawsuits. So at this point, we kind of find ourselves in another position where we have to comply, or else we're going to run down that rabbit hole, which we don't want to do. Subdivision design and nonconformities. We also discussed the zoning map revisions. There's a few areas that we've made some tweaks in the zoning, but nothing of any consequence. Again, just really more of correcting items that have been overlooked over the years. And then the last item we talked about was our zoning map with potential zoning map related to the potential medical marijuana issue that at this point we will be addressing here later this summer. And I think that concludes what I have to say.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having the meeting. I found eliminating gaps and also consolidating areas that seem to overlap. So appreciate you taking all the time you have with the rezoning or the ordinance changing the zoning. Well, that dovetails into our second reading of ordinance number 2018-006, which will be presented by Mr. Sanders. Before I get back to you, Mr. Sanders, I will ask nicely to Mr. Paulo to please read the title.
Ordinance number 2018-006. An ordinance amending Part 11 zoning of the codified ordinances of the City of Wooster, Ohio, so as to rezone land to a C3 Community Commercial District for property located at 50 Riffle Road.
Mr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the record, we will leave this on second reading again this evening. What we have here is, yes, a request for a change in zoning from 9.175 acres at 50 Riffle Road, which is at the corner of Riffle and Friendsville, from a C1 to a C3. The reason why I'm leaving this on second reading again this evening is sometime this afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock, we got some additional information from the applicant regarding the zoning change. And in light of the fact that we really didn't have much time to have any conversation or even be able to really read this properly, I plan to, like I say, leave this on second reading this evening. However, I would like to open up the floor if there's any questions or conversations that anyone would like to have based on what either A, you know now, or B, what you potentially would have read, or like I say, open the floor for questions. Mr. Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. I think I would be in support of a hotel in the north end. I'm a little concerned about the particular property that this is going on to, mostly because of the parking situation. My concern is if we rezone 9 acres to accommodate a 1.5 acre piece for a hotel, we really have then less control over what else can go there. It's been zoned C1 by the city to be consistent with the overall comprehensive plan that we've had for years. I know that from time to time changes are needed in order to accommodate growth in our community, but I am very concerned about some of the parking issues. I know in the letter, I will read more detail before our next meeting, but noted that they referenced a sharing parking arrangement with certified Angus beef, which I think is very great that they've reached out to their neighbors. I don't know about most of the folks here, but when I stay in a hotel, I'm generally not out of the hotel and have my car moved by 7 a.m. And that would be the case. Certified Angus beef needs their parking for their employees. So although they're offering a shared situation, it's unlikely that those people would be gone by that time in order to accommodate the business need of certified Angus beef. The other couple issues with regard to parking up there, and I know generally the conference center is not completely full in their parking, and there's quite a few spaces. It's slightly less than code requires right now, but it's been adequate for them for a number of years. But I'm concerned about that change, that they'd be successful in getting planning to go along with some of the variances they might need. So I'll further look through the information that's been sent, but thank you.
Any other questions from any other council members? Mr.
Yes, kind of following Councilman Myers' logic, the proposed rezoning is earmarked for a wonderful investment in our community, a hotel that would service the north end quite nicely. We've had positive feedback from other enterprises and business owners in the north end regarding the usage. However, there seems to be a very big question mark and an unknown relative to securing the proper variances should this be rezoned for the hotel to be able to be placed on that lot. It will be a lot of parking spaces short. They'll have to get the variance, and if that variance were denied for any reason, the hotel investment would not go through. The parcel would be rezoned, and at that point in time, to, I think, consensus opinion on council, any other type of enterprise could go adjacent to certified Angus beef and the former Greenbrier Convention Center. It would be parceled off, it could be sold, and while we all like the idea of the hotel and the shared parking access, with the unknown, and Mr. Montgomery, there was a correspondence from you where you indicated that you didn't feel that they would be able to secure a proper variance to Mr. Dutton. Mr. Myers, did you receive that email?
Yeah, I was having conversations regarding the concerns about parking, and I think that was referenced that the variances would unlikely be granted for if they were that short of parking. So
you'll have to remind me of what that is, because I don't remember having such a. We've
happy
had
to do
discussions about that particular use, but to this point, we've reserved those to the zoning, not the site plan, since zoning is what the planning commission reviewed and approved.
right.
So we have reserved the specific discussion on parking until such time as rezoning would be deciding.
Well, that's my biggest concern, that unknown. And if they weren't able to get the variance or obtain the variance, at that point in time, the zoning would be done, the project may not proceed, and we would be left vulnerable with a subdivided property at that point in time. So that's my only concern in terms of the progression of this initiative. Love the hotel concept, love the positive successes that the investors have had in other communities like Wooster. Certainly the Worcester's North End is in need of additional residential hotel capacity or temporary resident capacity. And this looks like a wonderful and sizable investment. We saw some financial figures today. And, with the property acquisition and the investment, you'd be looking at $7 million of investment. And also creating a lot of activity in the North End that is so well suited for that type of activity with the restaurants and the access to the city of Worcester. So that's my thought. I'm glad we're keeping this on second reading, Mr. Sanders, so we can deliberate and get a little more information before making this important decision. Thank you.
Mr. Sylvester.
I guess I would direct this question maybe to our Director of Law, but isn't it council's prerogative if they wanted to rezone any parcel within the city at any time? I mean, can that request come from council? I know this is a request put forward, from planning commission.
Usually development is driving the change.
So it wouldn't be within the bounds of what's possible from council for us to just rezone it back, should a proposal fall through?
The procedure would be to go through planning commission.
Okay.
It'd be kind of hard for them to deny what it already is, though, if we wanted to put it back.
Right, I guess that was my thought, is it possible?
Just one
I think
clarification, that whole parcel that's being asked for right now, which includes the conference center, the proposed zoning that's being requested, includes the conference center, which would be, if it were to be approved, the conference center, that whole parcel would now be an approved use. Right now, it's a conditional use for that. So
Right.
it would only depend if that other parcel gets lotted off.
It would still be short the required parking by planning guidelines.
Based on the
As it is
preliminary
today.
proposals that we have seen, yes.
Okay.
Did you want to add something, Andrew?
Yeah, I was just going to state, so the property owner, city council, or the planning commission could initiate an amendment to the map or the zoning code. So yes, you could do that theoretically.
All right, with that, we'll say that this piece of legislation has had its second reading, and thank you all for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Moving on to new business. First reading of resolution number 2018-018. It'll be presented by Mr. Myers. It is a budgeted item, so suspension of the rules is not necessary or needed. And it's going to require, though, Mr. Paulo to read the title.
Resolution number 2018-018, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to advertise according to law and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder to renovate the community room at the Worcester Community Center in accordance with the capital plan for 2018.
Mr. Myers, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Biden-Dyke. This is if you've been to the community center, I know a number of you were at the lunch that we held down there that the Mayor Brenneman had with all the accolades for the folks that have been here for a number of years, and the spaghetti dinner that Mr. Biden-Dyke, I know you were there in the kitchen working hard, so a lot of us have had opportunity to be in the community room. Down at the community center, basically the entire center has been renovated since its original construction with the exception of this room. So what we're looking to do is bring this room up to date with just kind of a facelift and some of the other things. I'm going to let Jeff talk specifically about what they're going to be doing. But one of the questions that was brought to me earlier by a fellow council member that I want to clear up is this would in no way be interfered with if we ever were to expand or renovate the community center, as was discussed, adding onto that space with some additional services. this would be an investment that would be maintained and would not be affected by that change down the road. So this fits nicely within that plan if we were to go forward. So Mr. Baddick is here, and I'd like to touch base on a couple other things. This is a $90,000 budgeted renovation that's been in the plans for a while. So go ahead.
We've been researching this for 3 years. We were looking to update, basically gut the whole roof, from the steel beams down to the concrete floor. Just bring it up to date, so that, you know, if a business wants to rent it, you know, they're coming into a nice modern room with all the amenities, you know, for laptops and whatnot, so it can be used by anybody.
We may auction off those curtains from 1970 something, right?
I'll be happy to bring them to your house.
Yeah, those are some silent draperies, man. Yeah, it's going to be lighting and a number of infrastructure improvements that will serve us for a long time to come. You know, some of the things like replacing the light fixtures with LEDs literally will save, you know, 40 or 50% of the energy bill going forward. So there's some upgrades infrastructure-wise that would be beneficial for the community center as well. So, is there anything additional or any questions for Mr. Baddick?
Oh, do you foresee many outside entities using that room? We actually have quite a few, and I think we would have more businesses wanting to use our facility. Because I know from time to time businesses are looking for, and I want to steal Mr. Starlin's thunder, but I know their new conference room has gotten a lot of use from businesses. The only thing we would lack that the chamber doesn't have would be free maple syrup for them.
That's true.
Well, you've finally got the ovens working properly too in the kitchen. Everybody's happy about that, right? Yeah, well, you know, you never leave your pizza burning.
Any questions or concerns? Yes, Mark.
Any grant money available to help us out with the cost? I know sometimes the power company, when you replace lighting, will offer some help in that regard. I don't know if anyone checked. Pretty sure that grant lighting from AEP is over with.
Well, actually, it's been renewed for 2018.
Wow, I stand corrected.
There is a program where you can get 22 cents per watt reduced. So if you've got T8 fixtures that are 150 watts and you replace it with 40-watt LEDs, you can apply for those funds. So any AEP customer is eligible.
Mr. Kevin, we will look into that.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
I can send you the application. Anything further?
Yeah, I
Yes.
have a question. And maybe Mr. Beitendijk has already clarified this, but I haven't been into the kitchen there. Will this renovation include the kitchen as well?
It will not include the kitchen.
Okay.
Um,
I know for rental
that's a-
purposes, that's often something that you're looking for.
Right now, it's functional. I got a quote last year to renovate the kitchen, basically take everything out, replace everything. Nothing special, it was $75,000.
It's all commercial grade?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna hold off a few more years and see what happens in the future before we renovate that kitchen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? If not, I'd like to move for adoption of resolution number 2018-018.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Myers. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Ansel. Would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Cavan,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Costancic,
Yes.
Ansel.
Yes.
Resolution number 2018-018 passes. Brings us to resolution number 2018-019. It'll be presented by Mr. Costancic. It is slated for 3 readings. Before I get to Mr. Costancic, would you once again do the honors of reading the title, please?
Resolution number 2018-019, a resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to enter into a contract for right-of-way acquisition services related to the Wooster Loop Phase 2 Bike Trail Project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Costancic, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a request to enter into a contract with O.R. Collin Associates for professional services related to Wooster Loop Phase 2 Bike Trail project. This contract will be a right-of-way acquisition services for the 24 properties affected by this. O.R. Collin is pre-qualified by ODOT to perform right-of-way services and has already completed the title search on these properties. Council has previously passed Resolution 2017-27 authorizing the Director of Administration to enter a contract for engineering design services. One of the reasons we need a consultant on this, ODOT requires very specific processes that need to be followed when negotiating for right-of-way, and the consultant is pre-qualified by ODOT, and the process actually requires 15 distinct steps or tasks in order to get the right-of-way done legally. I was under the impression this was already a pre-budgeted item, so we don't need 3 readings on this? Am I wrong on that?
I'm just going what is written at the bottom of the resolution.
It says budgeted.
Well, in either way, I would open this up for discussion, and if Roger would like to make a few comments on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the same step that we took when we did phase 1 of the bike trail. You know, we get approval to put in an application. We get approval to accept the funds from ODOT, which in this case I think is $717,600 for construction. But then in order to get that, you've got to go through the steps of design and right-of-way acquisition per ODOT standards in order to get the money. So it's basically the same thing we did for phase 1 of the bike route, except there's less properties on phase 2.
Phase 1 was a $162,000 contract. This is a contract for a little over $101,000.
And the bike trail goes from the driveway going back to the Oldman tank up to Burbank, which actually connects with the one we just did. And then it runs along Burbank to the front of the new safety center, which we actually built a bike trail in front of the safety center anticipating this. And then it goes all the way up to Health Point, where we built the trail when we did Fresno, so connecting a few. And then also on Portage from Melrose up to 585, which connects with the 2 trails on 585. So just another step.
Well, it does say appropriated, but it does, the resolution itself has 3 readings on it. Can, okay.
Do any other members of council have any questions on this? Then I would make a motion to suspend the rules.
All right, motion to suspend the rules by Mr. Bostancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Warden. Would you please call the roll on the motion to suspend the rules?
Bastancic?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cabot?
Yes.
Rules are suspended. Mr.
I
Bostancic.
would move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Bostancic. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Silvestri. Last chance, last gasp. Seeing none, would you please call the roll on the motion to adopt?
Bastancic?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Sanders?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Ansel?
Yes.
Cabot?
Yes.
Resolution number 2018-019 passes, and I'll have to say that hike from down Portage up Portage to 585 is quite something. I remember being a playground supervisor at Melrose, and every once in a while got crazy and rode my bike there, and that was a long time ago. That was before the curtains went in down at the community center. That brings us to our final piece of legislation, resolution number 2018-020. It'll be presented by Ms. Warden, and it looks like this one is budgeted, so will not require suspension of the rules. Before I get to Ms. Warden, would you, for the last time, read the title of a piece of legislation?
Resolution number 2018-020. A resolution authorizing the Director of Administration to advertise according to law and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for the replacement of part of the water line on East Wayne Avenue.
Ms. Warden, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this is basically a request authorizing the advertisement and award of a contract to the lowest and best bidder for the replacement of a water line on East Wayne Avenue from Beaver Street to Bell Avenue. If you're familiar with that area, it runs in between the college campus and I believe it's Bornhuter Hall, if I'm saying that correctly or not. Anyways, this project involves the replacement of approximately 1,000 linear feet of a 6-inch cast iron water line that has a history of breaks. And the replacement pipe shall be a 12-inch ductile iron. The project includes replacing 3 water services and 3 fire hydrants. Construction of the water lines will allow for scheduled roadway resurfacing improvements, which are set to take place in 2019. And after speaking with Mr. Kowalarsik, I understand that they are going to work in concert with the College of Wooster so as to not disrupt any type of activity that's going on there, but it shouldn't be an issue at all. This is, again, this is a budgeted item, and postponing this would just result in emergency repairs that might be needed, so unless anyone has any questions, I move to adopt.
Well, there is a motion to adopt by Ms. Warden, and I saw a second by Mr. Cavan, and yeah, it's a good idea. I remember a few years ago, we had a paving project going on during the College of Worcester's commencement, so probably not a good idea to be tearing up Wayne when there's commencement going on. So, wise man there, Mr. Kowalarsik.
They know about it.
Wise man. Anything further? Otherwise, I will have Mr. Paulo call the roll.
Myers,
Yes.
Sanders,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Warden,
Yes.
Ansel,
Yes.
Cavan,
Yes.
Costansik.
Yes.
Resolution number 2018-020 passes. That brings us to our miscellaneous portion. And we'll start out with the man who started this all today, is Mr. Sanders.
Nothing to add, Mr. President.
Okay, Mr. Silvestri.
Yes, I would just say that I hope my colleagues would consider the one item that we left on second reading. I know it's going to see a third reading next council meeting. And I guess it's a tough decision for council because I hate to limit economic development. At the same time, we have tenants who have taken up residence there along that corridor based on the look and feel that part of town currently enjoys. And as you heard our planning and zoning manager say, this is not just a random request for rezoning. This is driven by the proposed application. So to me, that implies that the pending application has some bearing on the rezoning. That being the case, I would hope that we would consider the rezoning, and if the variances are not achieved, and if the project fails to move forward, as you heard our planning and zoning manager say, it's council's prerogative that we could zone it back. I mean, I think based on what we've done here in our town, I think people expect that council not only is proactive, but council keeps tight reins on development in the city of Worcester so that we can maintain and continue the forward momentum that Mr. Ansel referenced at the last meeting that we see. So, like I said, I think maybe it's a little bit of an outside-the-box consideration, but I think maybe we could satisfy all parties, wish the developer well, see what happens, and then take it up after that. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Ward.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Cavan.
Nothing to add.
Mr. Bostancic.
I'm good.
And Mr. Myers.
Thank you, President Biden. Yeah, I agree with my colleague. I think, although it would not be normally the course of action that we might take in the past, this is a bit of a unique application for someone who's put a lot of work into the hotel idea, and obviously willing to put a big investment in our community. But I agree. The only way I would support this change would be that if the hotel were to fail for whatever reason, not their own doing, that we would rezone it back to what it was originally planned for, so we could maintain the continuity of that atmosphere. So I would be willing to support it under those conditions, but otherwise I'm afraid I would not be able to. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ansel, thank you for, did I miss you? Yes, I did.
Growing up in school was usually alphabetical order, and Ansel was always at the top of the chart, so I like going last now occasionally. It's refreshing. I want to thank my colleagues and Mr. Montgomery and Ms. Applebaum on the rezoning question. I think that is a creative approach to support a huge economic initiative and investment on behalf of an outside investment group coming to our wonderful community. And if it can all come together and it can secure the proper variances, that's why we have those committees to make the recommendations. Certainly it is a positive go-forward initiative, and if not, then we can go ahead and reverse our decision and do it on a as-project type of basis. So hadn't thought of that, so we were able to work through that tonight and identify some ability to be creative and provide support should the project continue to sustain momentum. And finally, reiterating the mayor's congratulatory acknowledgement. It's remarkable, again, for site selection to recognize our growth and our capital, corporate capital investment within our community and the sizable projects that we have consistently year after year. It's just not an anomaly, it's a trend, and it goes back to that momentum. And the Wooster Community Hospital is just a superstar in terms of those size and shape hospitals throughout our nation. To be in the top, 5 percentile or 2 percentile is remarkable. And you can see the growth and the positive investment that continues to be made within that asset within our community. They're not resting on their laurels. They're continuing full steam ahead, and that's what it's all about, and that's progress. So very positive. Congratulations to the Worcester Community Hospital and also the City of Worcester. Thank you, and with that, I will motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Ansel. Is there a second? Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.